Your soulmate was standing beneath bright stage lights when someone asked them a question they were supposed to answer quickly. If you could marry anyone tomorrow, no planning, no obstacles, no fear, who would it be? The audience laughed. Your soulmate did not. They looked down for barely 2 seconds, lifted the microphone again, and said your full name. The room changed immediately. A few people gasped because they recognized it. Others began whispering. The host smiled in surprise and started to ask whether your soulmate had just made a public proposal, but your soulmate interrupted before the crowd could turn the moment into something it was not. No. Please don't do that. The audience became quiet. Your soulmate looked directly toward the main camera. If they happen to see this, I am not asking them to marry me. I already learned what happens when a room full of people gets invited into an answer that should belong to 2 people. Nobody laughed now. Then your soulmate said something even more unexpected. But the answer to your question is still them. That clip is spreading tonight. People are replaying the moment your soulmate said your name. Some are calling it romantic. Some are wondering what happened between you. A few people who remember the old story are shocked because years ago, the last time marriage was mentioned publicly between you and your soulmate, the night ended with you walking away from an engagement ring in front of almost 80 people. At least, that is how everyone remembered it. Your soulmate remembered it that way too. Until 48 hours ago. Because 48 hours ago, they heard the original audio from that night for the first time. And hidden beneath cheering, music, and applause was your voice saying something your soulmate had spent years believing you never said. One word. Yes. You and your soulmate had been together almost 4 years when the proposal happened. Nothing about the beginning suggested your relationship would ever become public gossip among friends. You met in an ordinary place on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon, a tiny neighborhood bakery called Linden and Rye, where both of you were waiting for the same last cinnamon roll. Your soulmate reached the counter first. You were directly behind them. The cashier said, "Only one left." Your soulmate glanced back at you. You said, "Take it." They smiled. Are you sure? Yes. They bought it. Then sat at the table beside yours and ate the entire thing without offering you even one bite. You looked over. I regret everything. Your soulmate laughed. You told me to take it. I thought generosity would inspire generosity. That was your mistake. 10 minutes later, they bought you coffee. 3 days later, you met again deliberately. The relationship grew without much drama. Your soulmate was spontaneous. You were quieter. They loved crowded dinners, surprise birthdays, loud celebrations, people arriving without warning. You preferred knowing where you were going before you got there. Your soulmate could tell a story to 15 strangers without feeling exposed. You could spend an entire evening talking deeply to one person and still avoid posting a photograph afterward. At first, the difference amused both of you. When your soulmate organized your first birthday together, they invited 22 people. You had expected 4. You walked through the door, saw everyone shout your name, and immediately walked backward outside. Your soulmate followed, laughing. Where are you going? Home. It's your home. Then all these people have broken in. You eventually went inside and had a good night. Later, your soulmate asked, "You really hate surprises that much?" You answered, "I hate decisions disguised as surprises." They did not fully understand. So you explained. When you were 17, your mother once invited relatives over for dinner and announced that you had accepted a prestigious summer program connected to a career she wanted you to pursue. You had not accepted it. You had not even decided whether you wanted it. But everybody around the table immediately applauded. Your grandfather hugged you. Your aunt said she was proud. Your younger cousins started asking questions. By the time somebody finally asked how you felt, saying no longer felt like answering a question. It felt like disappointing 12 people simultaneously. You went. You hated almost every day. Years later, you told your soulmate, "I hate being handed a choice after the audience has already clapped." Your soulmate remembered the sentence. They simply did not understand how important it would become. Most of your relationship was private in the best possible way. Both of you had rituals no one else knew about. Sunday morning walks before the city became crowded. A rule that whoever cooked did not wash dishes. An ongoing argument over whether one terrible blue armchair was charming or ugly. A shared notebook in the kitchen where either person could write something they wanted to do together, from "visit Iceland" to "replace bathroom shelf before it kills one of us." Marriage appeared in that notebook once. Your soulmate wrote, "Maybe marry each other eventually." You added beneath it, "strong possibility." They drew an angry face beside your answer. You added, "Fine. Very strong possibility." Marriage was not something you avoided. You discussed where you might live. Whether you wanted children. How money should work. Which relatives would create problems at a wedding. Your soulmate once asked what kind of proposal you would want. You answered immediately, "Private." They laughed. How private? Two people seems traditional. Not even family. After. No photographer? No, what if the person proposing wants photographs? Then afterward we recreated badly. Your soulmate laughed and kissed you. The conversation felt casual enough that neither of you treated it as a boundary carved in stone. That became the mistake. Your soulmate loved you. They also knew you hated being the center of attention. And somewhere inside them, a belief formed that the most romantic possible gesture would be proving that a huge public moment could feel safe if it came from the right person. Their best friend, Matteo, encouraged it. People say they hate surprises until it's the right surprise. Your soulmate said, they specifically said private. Matteo replied, they also said your surprise birthday ended up being fun. Those were not the same thing. At the time, your soulmate let themselves believe they were close enough. They chose Lantern Night, an annual rooftop gathering hosted by one of their friends. Nearly 80 people would attend, including both families, old classmates, colleagues, and mutual friends. The rooftop was beautiful. Hundreds of small lights. Music. City skyline. Mateo arranged 2 cameras because your soulmate wanted the proposal recorded. Another friend clipped a tiny wireless microphone beneath your soulmate's jacket so the audio would be clear. You knew none of it. That evening, you noticed something strange almost immediately. People kept looking at you. Your soulmate's sister hugged you for too long. Mateo almost dropped a champagne glass when you walked behind him. You asked your soulmate, "What is happening?" "Nothing." That answer has never once meant nothing. They smiled nervously. Then somebody dimmed the music. People began moving toward one side of the rooftop. You looked around. Your expression changed. Your soulmate took your hand. That was the first moment they should have stopped. They remember it now. You asked quietly, "What are you doing?" They said, "Trust me." People formed a semicircle. Phones appeared. Your soulmate began speaking. At first, you looked stunned. Then emotional. They talked about linden and rye. The cinnamon roll. Your terrible blue chair. The notebook in the kitchen. They talked about 4 years of ordinary life becoming the life they wanted. Then they reached into their pocket. Your eyes immediately filled. Your soulmate dropped to one knee. The rooftop erupted. People shouted. Someone started crying before the question had even been asked. Your soulmate opened the ring box. "Will you marry me?" Everyone went completely silent. You looked at them. Then at the people. Then at the phones. Then back at the person you loved. Your soulmate remembers seeing your lips move. They could not hear what you said because someone behind them gasped loudly. Then the crowd began cheering. Your soulmate assumed you had said yes. They stood. They tried to place the ring on your finger. And that was when everything went wrong. You caught their wrist. Your face looked overwhelmed. You said louder, "I can't do this here." The cheering stopped. Your soulmate stared at you. What? You looked around at everybody. Not here. People began lowering their phones. Your soulmate's face burned. They whispered, "Are you saying no?" You answered, "I'm saying I can't do this like this." To your soulmate, that was no. Maybe not technically. Emotionally, with 80 people staring at them while they held an open ring box, it felt exactly like no. They stood. Closed the box. Then walked toward the stairwell. You followed immediately. Mateo began asking guests for space. Inside the stairwell, your soulmate was crying. You said, "Please listen." They turned around. "You just rejected me in front of everyone we know." "I didn't reject you." "What do you call that?" "I said yes." Your soulmate stared at you. "No, you didn't." "I did." When? The first thing I said. I didn't hear you. You looked devastated. I said, yes. I love you. Please, not here. Your soulmate shook their head. No, yes. I was looking directly at you. Everyone started shouting. Your soulmate was too hurt to process it. They held up the ring. Then take it. You looked at the ring. Then at them. Not while you're asking me like this. That was the second sentence your soulmate remembered instead. Not the first. They said, so your answer is only yes if I ask correctly? That isn't what I mean. Then explain it. You struggled. This room upstairs already decided what my answer should be before you asked me. They're our friends. I know. They love us. I know. So what exactly are you afraid of? You said, that if I put that ring on now, I will never know whether I chose the moment or survived it. Your soulmate recoiled. Survived it? Wrong word. You knew immediately. I didn't mean, yes, you did. They began walking downstairs. You followed. Outside the building, the argument became worse. You were trying to explain that marriage was not the problem. Your soulmate was hearing that their love had become some public trap. They said, you have spent 4 years telling me you want a future with me. I do. Then why is this suddenly complicated? Marriage isn't complicated. What just happened is. Because people watched? Yes. Why should that change your answer? You stared at them. Then said the sentence they would resent for years, because I told you I never wanted to be asked this way. Your soulmate stopped. They remembered. The private proposal conversation. The story about being 17. The audience already clapping. They remembered all of it. And embarrassment immediately transformed into defensiveness. You're comparing me to your mother? No, you are. I'm comparing the feeling. That's worse. The conversation ended without resolution. You went home separately. The ring remained with your soulmate. The next morning, you sent a message. My answer to marrying you is yes. My answer to last night is still no. Your soulmate stared at it for hours. To you, the distinction was everything. To them, it felt impossible. They replied, I don't know how to separate those anymore. For the next 3 weeks, both of you tried. But every conversation returned to the rooftop. Your soulmate wanted you to put on the ring privately and prove that the public rejection had only been about the setting. You resisted. Not because you no longer wanted marriage. Because now accepting that specific ring immediately felt like converting pain into an emergency. You told them, if we get engaged next week, every time we tell the story, it will sound like I corrected my answer. Your soulmate said, you are correcting your answer. No. I am trying to get you to understand it never changed. That difference became unbearable. Friends made it worse accidentally. Some told your soulmate they deserved somebody certain. Others told you that you humiliated the person you loved. One friend said, if you were going to say yes eventually, why not just say yes and discuss the rest later? You did not know how to explain that saying yes because 80 people were waiting would have been exactly the thing you were afraid of. Your soulmate did not know how to explain that watching the person they loved step away from a ring in front of everybody had created a humiliation that logic could not erase. Both of you were hurt. Both of you were partially right. And both of you eventually became more committed to defending your pain than understanding the other person's. The relationship ended 6 weeks after Lantern Night. No cheating. No secret third party. No dramatic betrayal. Your soulmate came to your apartment. The blue chair was still there. They sat across from you and said, I don't think we know how to come back from that roof. You answered, neither do I. They placed the ring on the table. You did not touch it. Then they asked one final question. If I had asked you here, that night, just the two of us, would you have said yes? You looked at them. Yes. Your soulmate started crying. Then I think that makes it worse. They left. For almost 2 years, that became the story. Your soulmate proposed. You said no publicly. Later you claimed you would have said yes privately. The relationship could not survive the humiliation. People simplified it further. Some said you were commitment phobic. Some said your soulmate ignored a clear boundary. Some said the relationship must already have been failing. None of those versions contained the whole truth. Then Matteo got engaged. His wedding is happening in 3 months. Last week, he decided to make a short film from old footage of his friends over the years. He found the Lantern Night files. For the first time since the breakup, your soulmate agreed to look at them. They almost regretted it immediately. Watching themselves kneel again felt unbearable. Watching your face was worse. You looked happy at first. Then frightened. Then the footage reached the question. Will you marry me? The crowd fell silent. Your lips moved. The main camera audio captured almost nothing. Matteo was about to skip forward. Then he remembered the wireless microphone. Your soulmate had been wearing it. The isolated audio still existed. He opened the file. Your soulmate's voice, will you marry me? Then, very softly, yours, yes. I love you. Please, not here. Your soulmate stopped the recording. Nobody moved. Matteo stared at the computer. Oh. Your soulmate said, play it again. He did. Yes. I love you. Please, not here. Again. Your soulmate covered their mouth. For 2 years, they knew you claimed you had said yes. Somewhere inside them, they had never completely believed you. They assumed memory had softened the moment for you. Or that you had whispered something less definite and later turned it into yes because you regretted the breakup. The recording destroyed that explanation. Your first answer had been yes. Clear. Immediate. Before hesitation. Before stepping backward. Before anyone heard the louder sentence. Yes. Then Matteo continued the footage. Your soulmate leaves for the stairwell. You follow. The main camera remains running. Later, after your soulmate leaves the building entirely, the footage shows you returning to the rooftop alone. Most guests are gone. Matteo approaches you. You look exhausted. He says, "I'm sorry." You answer, "You were helping. I pushed the cameras." You do not respond. Then Matteo asks, "Do you actually want to marry them?" You turn toward him. Your answer comes instantly. "I would marry them tomorrow." Your soulmate stopped the video again. Tomorrow. The exact word from the question they were asked on stage tonight. Matteo continued. Then why not just fix this? You looked toward the empty rooftop. Because if I put that ring on tomorrow just to prove tonight didn't mean what everyone thinks it meant, then the ring becomes an apology instead of a decision. Matteo asked, "So what are you going to do?" Your answer, "Wait until we can ask each other when nobody is watching." Your soulmate cried. Not because the recording proved you were perfect. It did not. Your way of responding after the proposal sometimes became rigid. You could have reassured them more. You could have understood sooner that public embarrassment does not disappear just because a principal explains it. You sometimes defended the technical truth, that you said yes, while failing to see that your soulmate experienced something emotionally closer to rejection. But one belief could no longer survive. You had not been uncertain about marrying them. You had been certain. Your soulmate had simply asked you inside the one kind of situation you had specifically told them made your own answer difficult to hear. Then Matteo revealed something else. 3 days after the breakup, you came to see him. Your soulmate had never known. You brought the ring. Not to keep. Not because you had stolen it. Your soulmate had left it on your kitchen table during one final conversation and later assumed you mailed it back. You gave it to Matteo. You said, "Return it when they're ready. Don't tell them I kept it even for 3 days." Matteo asked why. You answered, "Because I don't want a ring becoming proof that I'm waiting. They need to be allowed to leave me without wondering whether I built an altar out of the breakup." Matteo returned it without explaining. Your soulmate stared at him when he admitted this. "You never told me. You never asked how I got it." That's a terrible excuse. I know. Then Matteo said something that mattered. They never asked me about you after that. Your soulmate's face changed. Never? One time. When? About 6 months later. What did they ask? Matteo remembered exactly. Are they okay? And what did you say? I said yes. Your soulmate waited. What did they say? Good. That was all. No secret campaign. No years of messages through friends. No dramatic waiting. You had eventually done exactly what you said you would do. You let them leave. Your soulmate went home that night and barely slept. They listened to the whispered yes repeatedly. Then, sometime after midnight, they remembered something from the last month of your relationship. You had asked, "Do you still want to marry me, or do you need me to erase what happened?" At the time, your soulmate thought the question was cruel. Now they understood why you asked. And they also recognized something uncomfortable about themselves. By then, part of them did need the engagement to happen quickly because they wanted the rooftop transformed into a temporary mistake instead of an unresolved wound. Marriage had stopped being only about marrying you. It had become evidence. Proof that they had not been rejected. Proof that everyone who watched had misunderstood. Proof that the relationship was stronger than the humiliation. That was too much work for a ring to perform. Today, your soulmate attended a live charity event called the Tomorrow Project. The format was light. Audience questions. Stories. A rapid-fire segment at the end. What would you eat tomorrow if calories didn't exist? What city would you wake up in? What job would you try? Then came, if you could marry anyone tomorrow, who would it be? The host expected a joke. Your soulmate thought about the rooftop audio. About your whispered yes. About what you told Mateo afterward. I would marry them tomorrow. Then your soulmate said your name. Full name. Immediately. No hesitation. The crowd reacted. And for one brief second, your soulmate felt the old instinct rise. The desire to let the room turn the answer into action. To let applause make something feel decided. They stopped it. No. Please don't do that. Silence. Then they explained. Not every private detail. Only what belonged to them. They said, years ago, I asked this person to marry me in front of a crowd even though they had told me they would want something private. I believed the size of the gesture proved the size of the love. Your soulmate swallowed. It didn't. Then, they actually said yes. I didn't hear it. A reaction moved through the audience. Your soulmate continued. They said yes quietly and then asked me not to make them answer there. I heard only the second part. Then they looked toward the camera. So if you are watching, my answer tonight is not a request. A pause. I would marry you tomorrow if tomorrow were something both of us chose. But I will never put you inside an audience and call their expectation romance again. That was their answer. Not simply your name. The admission. That was what surprised everyone. Your soulmate publicly confessed that after years of believing you were the uncertain one, they finally understood that the uncertainty had belonged to the situation, not to your love. The event ended. They refused every interview about you afterward. One reporter asked, "Do you expect them to respond?" Your soulmate said, "No, do you hope they do?" They smiled sadly. Of course. Then, but those are different questions. At 11:08 tonight, you finally saw the clip. A former coworker sent it without context. You almost ignored it. Then you saw your soulmate standing on stage. You heard the question. You heard your name. You froze. You watched the entire answer twice. Then a third time. The public confession did not make you instantly happy. Part of you hated that your relationship was public again. But then you noticed what your soulmate had done differently. They stopped the applause. They refused to let the host frame it as a proposal. They did not ask where you were. They did not say destiny would bring you back. They answered the hypothetical honestly while leaving the real decision alone. For the first time, your soulmate had stood inside a public romantic moment and protected the private answer. At 11:36, their phone vibrated. Your name appeared. Your soulmate stared at it. Your message contained only 5 words, "Thank you for not asking." They began crying. Not because 5 words meant reconciliation. Because you understood what they had been trying to do. Your soulmate replied, "I finally understood the difference." You read it. Several minutes passed. Then, Matteo showed you the audio? Yes. A pause. All of it? Your soulmate answered, including what you said after I left. You knew exactly which sentence. I would marry them tomorrow. Your soulmate's next message appeared, "I'm sorry I spent so long believing your certainty had to look like mine." You replied, "I'm sorry I spent so long defending what I meant instead of understanding what it felt like for you." Neither person won. That mattered. Then your soulmate asked, "Can I tell you one thing without it becoming a question?" You hesitated. Okay. Their message came, "If somebody asked me again tomorrow, my answer would still be you." You stared at it. Your soulmate sent nothing else. No question mark. No demand. Almost 20 minutes passed before you replied. Tomorrow would be too soon. Your soulmate laughed through tears. Then another message appeared. Coffee Saturday isn't. They stopped breathing for a moment. Coffee. Not a wedding. Not an engagement. Not a dramatic return. Coffee. They replied, "Private?" You answered, "Extremely." Your soulmate actually laughed. Saturday afternoon, you meet at Linden and Rye. The bakery where everything began. Not because either of you planned some perfect romantic circle. You suggested 3 places. Your soulmate chose this one because they still swear the cinnamon roll was worth stealing from you. They arrive first. You arrive 6 minutes later. There are no cameras. No relatives. No flowers. No ring. Your soulmate stands when you approach, then seems unsure whether to hug you. You notice. Instead of deciding for them, you ask, "Can I?" They nod. The hug is brief. Still enough to change the temperature of the entire room. You sit. For the first 20 minutes, nobody discusses marriage. You talk about work. People you both know. The blue chair, which you finally threw away. Your soulmate reacts as though you announced a death. You got rid of it? It was structurally unsafe. It had character. You spent 4 years calling it ugly. I was wrong. Growth. Eventually the laughter fades. Your soulmate looks at you. Then says, I should have listened when you told me how you wanted to be asked. You nod. Yes. No pretending it did not matter. Then you say, and I should have understood that after the rooftop, repeating, but I said yes wasn't enough. Your soulmate looks down. I think I needed you to make the humiliation disappear. I know. And you couldn't. No, silence. Then your soulmate asks, did you really mean what you told Matteo? You know which line. I did then. They swallow. Do you now? There it is. The first real question. No audience. No microphone. No friends already crying. Just 2 cups of coffee between you. You do not answer quickly. Your soulmate lets you think. That alone shows how much has changed. Finally, you say, I don't know if I would marry you tomorrow. Their eyes change slightly. You continue before fear can fill the silence. But I know I came here because I want to find out whether the people we are now could eventually choose that. Your soulmate exhales. Not disappointment. Relief. Because this answer is not cinematic. It is better. It belongs to the room. Then you ask, what about you? They smile. The stage answer? No, you lean forward slightly. Your answer. Your soulmate looks at you for a long time. Then says, I still want the possibility of marrying you. A pause. But I don't want to use marriage to undo the rooftop anymore. You nod. Good. Good. Yes. They laugh. You could make that slightly more romantic. I'm protecting brand consistency. They laugh again. No ring appears. No proposal happens. That is not where this story ends. Because the most important thing your soulmate learned was not hidden inside jewelry. It was hidden inside a tiny microphone nobody remembered existed. For years, one loud moment had overwritten a quiet answer. The crowd heard, I can't do this here. And almost nobody heard what came before it, yes. I love you. Please, not here. Your soulmate built years of pain around the louder sentence. Then 48 hours ago, they finally heard the whole thing. So when somebody asked them who they would marry tomorrow if they had the chance, they did not hesitate. You. Still you. But this time they understood something they had not understood on Lantern Night. Knowing whom you would choose does not mean you get to choose for them. So they said your name publicly, and left the actual question private. And that small difference is the reason that, after years apart, you finally agreed to sit across from them again. Not because an audience applauded. Not because a viral clip forced an answer. Not because one of you produced a ring. Because when the crowd became quiet, your soulmate finally proved they had learned how to hear the answer that had been there all along.